What's up, my fantasy affarians, and welcome into episode 3 of Bourbon Sips Fantasy Football Tips. What's up, my fantasy affarians, and welcome into episode 3 of Bourbon Sips Fantasy Football Tips. Got a little impromptu episode. We're typically not going to be dropping anything on Sunday, Monday morning, but look, we have some head coaching hires that I just couldn't wait to talk about anymore, right? So we're going to cover 4 of those head coaches. There's still some vacancies out there, so we're going to hold off on those for a little while for obvious reasons. But we're going to move in to the number 1 call, and that's Brian Dable of the New York Giants. Look, here's the deal with this guy. He's been an offensive coordinator for 8 seasons. 6 of which he's produced top 12 rushing attacks. And we've seen what he's been able to do with Josh Allen for the last 3 years. Year 1, tough season, big jump to season 2, and then an even bigger leap in season 3. We love what we're seeing from Josh Allen, so I can't explain how excited I am for guys like Saquon Barkley, whom you're probably not going to be able to get for a reasonable price. There's still a lot of name value. People are going to be looking to try to get him for more of what he used to be. And I'm not willing to pay that right now. What I am willing to pay, though, is for a guy like Kenny Galladay, who I expect to make a jump back up towards kind of what he was in Detroit. I don't think we're going to see a top 12 season out of him, but by God, he's going to be way better than what he was last season in his first season with the New York Giants and Daniel Jones. So keep an eye out. I'm really excited about Kenny G, and if I can move a late first for him, I'm probably going to do that right now. If I can move a 110, 111, 112 for Kenny G, I'm probably going to take a shot at that, but I'm going to wait until I get a little bit closer to the draft in the hopes that I can add a little bit to that 110 for Kenny G plus a little bit, right? So keep that in mind. Kenny G, Saquon Barkley going to be huge upticks in value, I believe, with Brian Dable as the new head coach of the New York Giants. So I'm going to shift gears. I'm talking bourbon sips and fantasy football tips. I can't just give a bunch of tips. I got to talk bourbon also. And tonight, I'm sipping on a little Wathens barrel proof. So this is from Charles Medley Distillery. Distilled in Kentucky. It's a contract distillery, so not really sure where it's coming from. It's bottled in Kentucky. Right now, this bottle in particular is about 115 proof. This is probably top 10 for me right now, flavor-wise. The price makes it knock down a little bit if you take value and taste into account. It is about $90, so I don't know that, it's something for everybody at $90, but if you like to splurge every now and again and you run across this, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Again, Wathens Barrel Proof from Charles Medley Distillery. Now, next coaching hire we're going to talk about. Matt Eberflus, the ex-defensive coordinator, now head coach of the Chicago Bears. Now, typically speaking, when you've got a defensive-minded coach, we're looking at the run game. So then you pay attention to that offensive coordinator hire. And that offensive coordinator is Mr. Getz, who was the passing game coordinator for the Green Bay Packers in the past. Now you think, okay, well, we got a passing game coordinator with Aaron Rodgers. You got a defensive-minded head coach. So, Brad, those are kind of butting up against each other. You got a head coach who's going to want to run the ball. You got an offensive coordinator who comes from an offense where he wants to throw the ball first. So then you get to dig a little bit more. So what was Luke Getz? Did he ever call plays? And he did, in fact. He called plays for the Mississippi State Bulldogs in college in 2017, 2018. Don't quote me on the year. One of those 2 years. And here's the deal. If you look at that, he was 11th in the nation in rushing. 11th in the nation in rushing. And if you only look at Power 5 schools, he was 5th in the nation with almost 230 yards a game rushing. This is a guy that wants to run the ball. So now I look at a defensive coordinator, now head coach, and an offensive coordinator who, when calling plays, likes to run the ball, and I think it's a smash play for the running game in Chicago. Now, with all that being said, I'm not looking to go pay a premium for David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert. I'm more looking at steady value, right? So what their value was going into last season, I'm willing to pay again this season, even though you tack on that extra year and age. So Matt Eberflus and Getz, I think, make the run game solid, and you can go forth with confidence that that game is going to progress. Justin Fields, I do think, is going to give you some rushing game upside, but I think his passing game is going to be a little stunted, right? So maybe you wait another year before you look at really going to acquire a Justin Fields. All right, moving on to the number 3. Look, we're talking Nathaniel Hackett, new head coach for the Denver Broncos. And it's already starting to get a little hot here, but anytime I get the opportunity to talk Javonte Williams, I got to take a little bit of clothes off because, look, I got a man crush on this dude. This guy is an absolute beast. And the addition of Nathaniel Hackett makes me so much more excited for him. So much so that I'm like, okay, am I a little too high on him? So let me go do some digging. What does Nathaniel Hackett do? Nathaniel Hackett, when you look, all he does is win at the running back position. 2017 produced the number 1 rushing attack in Jacksonville with Leonard Fournette. Then he goes to the Green Bay Packers as the offensive coordinator and produces 3 top 10 rushing performances with Aaron Jones. And you heard me talk about that, which is why I'm so high on Javonte Williams. He was my number 4 cornerstone running back. I am so excited for Javonte Williams that I took him in the back end of the 2nd round in a startup. That's how confident I am. And you don't take risks in the first 2 rounds of a dynasty startup draft. Those are your smash plays. I am that convinced that he is a smash play right now. So the addition of Nathaniel Hackett does nothing but provide positive vibes for me for the run game in Denver. I'm going to be curious to see what happens with the passing game, what they do at the quarterback position. Do they bring in somebody like a Jimmy Garoppolo? Are they successful in acquiring Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers? Or do they address it through the draft? It's going to be interesting to see, and it may adjust some rankings and adjust my thought on Javonte Williams just slightly depending on what they do at that position. Moving on to the number 4 quarterback, or number 4 head coach, and the last topic for tonight, that's going to be Josh McDaniels, the new head coach, and buddied up with a GM from New England as well for the Las Vegas Raiders. And look, I went back and watched the opening day press conference when they hired him, and it didn't give me great vibes for Derek Carr. They were very non-committal to Derek Carr in the future. They said, hey, we got to talk to him and kind of see where his head's at. I think that is okay for this year. I still think you see an uptick in Derek Carr's performance this year because of what they're looking to try to do. And I believe that Josh McDaniels is going to be okay. But long term, I worry a little bit about Derek Carr. So if I was a Derek Carr owner right now, I may be looking to unload him because of that uncertainty on what next year looks like. But the player I would look to go obtain is definitely going to be Darren Waller. Look, Josh McDaniels coming from New England, that is a tight end heavy system, a system where you saw Hunter Henry emerge in the second half of last year, and you knew they were wanting to do that when they brought in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. You saw Rob Gronkowski, you saw Ben Watson, you saw some really good tight end seasons from the New England Patriots with Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. Now, you want to see a tie. And what I see is they're bringing in the Cleveland Browns tight ends coach for a second interview for the offensive coordinator position. So now I see a line where they're looking at a philosophy of utilizing the tight end, which makes perfect sense. They have Darren fucking Waller. Why would you not want to do that, right? So I look at a situation where if they do bring in an offensive coordinator who heavily relies on the tight end, and we know the head coach is somebody who in the past has heavily relied on the tight end, you're going to continue to see a heavy reliance on Darren Waller, which means I'm going to look to go obtain him, especially after having a down season last year like he did. For instance, if I could go get Darren Waller for, we'll say, a tight end 6 to 10 value, I'm going to go smash that all day long because I think he returns to top 3 if not higher than that. I think you're going to see a focal. He's going to be the focal point of that offense. Everything's going to run through him, and I am very excited for Darren Waller moving in to another season with the Las Vegas Raiders and Derek Carr with new head coach Josh McDaniels. So here we are, short, sweet. We talked through 4 head coaches: Las Vegas Raiders Josh McDaniels, Nathaniel Hackett of the Denver Broncos, Matt Eberflus of the Chicago Bears, and Brian Dable of the New York Giants. We still have some vacancies, so we're going to be looking to address those in a later episode. But for now, we're done. So if you like what you hear, as always, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Check out my Patreon, FF Bourbon Dude, or patreon.com/FF Bourbon Dude. For $1 a month, you can see my rankings and also have exclusive access to ask me questions around trades or your leagues and whatnot. And then lastly, a little bit of peek behind the curtain, because I like doing that, right? Unlike some other people, maybe my locker room buddy, Eric Burkholder. Speaking of the locker room, check it out, the Locker Room, a Dynasty Fantasy Football experience on wherever you get your podcasts. Also part of the Fantasy Affair family. And if you're interested and you like that, give at Eric Burkholder 6 a like and a follow on Twitter as well. But look, we're going to talk East-West Shrine Game this week. We're going to talk Senior Bowl. We're going to look at some risers. We're going to look at some fallers. We're getting you ready for your rookie draft coming up in a couple months after the NFL draft. We want to make sure you're successful and you make the lowest risk picks early on and maybe take a little bit of risk in the 3rd round or the 2nd round. So without further ado, have a great night and cheers.